Boston, protesters beheaded the Christopher Columbus statue. In Virginia, they threw it in the water. The American Indian movement Twin Cities claims he bought a rope and let others do the heavy lifting.
Cancel everything that you could ever associate with any inkling of bad thing, even though that we forget that people in photos and people of different places and times are human. And that seems to be what's lost in my opinion. And the internet is freaking out over this memo that was released by the assistant director that is important here under this memorandum, which they say this. It's a memorandum for the Department of Veteran Affairs sent out on the 29th of February. And it's from the Assistant Under Secretary of Health Operations. Again, that is Health Operations. And it says subject, removal and replacement of the VJ Day and Times Square photographs. And it says the purpose. This memorandum requests the removal of the VJ Day in Times Square photograph from all Veterans Health Administration facilities in alignment with the Department of Veteran Affairs' commitment to maintaining a safe, respectful, and trauma-informed environment. This action is promoted by the recognition that the photograph, which depicts a non-consensual act, is inconsistent with the VA's no-tolerance policy towards sexual harassment and assault as outlined in the Veteran Affairs Handbook 5979 and VHA Directive 5019. And yes, I have to be fair and sensitive to some degree that there are service members that have dealt with trauma from nature related to some of the things they suffered during their military experience. I'm not going to be insensitive to those types of things that are going on. However, I do think that there is a point of where, like, history is not always this easy black and white, such as the photo that you see here. The memorandum also states this. It says background, the VJ Day in Times Square photograph captured by Alfred Einstein on August 14, 1945 is an iconic image from the 20th century. It depicts a U.S. Navy sailor kissing a woman dressed in white, a dental assistant, in Times Square, New York City. On the day Japan surrendered World War II was announced, marking the war's end. This spontaneous moment was celebrated across the United States, and the photograph quickly became a symbol of victory and the joyous end to the long and devastating conflict. The placement of this photograph in Veteran Affairs facilities was initially intended to celebrate and commemorate the end of the World War II and the triumphant return of American soldiers. However, perspectives on historical events and their representations evolve. Recent discussions have highlighted concerns about the non-consensual nature of this kiss, prompting debates on consent and the appropriateness of celebrating such images in today's environment, especially within institutions such as VHA facilities, which are committed to upholding standards of creating a safe and respectful environment. What I find funny about this situation is the fact that when people look at this, it's not until the backstory, until somebody Googles and goes further deep, that this is something that is symbolized as something like this of like, oh, well, I've one-upped you and I now know more about this iconic moment than you. And that somehow makes me feel empowered and better. And that's why we got to change it. I feel like it's more about ego than anything else when we're looking at this. The fact that people look at this and they're like, that was iconic. The fact that how many hundreds of thousands, millions of people died during World War II, that this was a signifying moment of chaos that was ended in joy, and the fact that one person or two people found it appropriate to be this joyous. And the fact that this moment was caught on camera, it's very seldom, especially during this time period where it's like, what are we able to celebrate anymore? I'm just like, I understand some sensitivities of things that have gone down previously back in 2020 where they were taking things down. I can understand that. I do think history as a whole should be appreciated, though, to some degree, not in just taking everything down and wiping everything clean like it's a new slate. Number 3, the decision. The Department of Justice's current definition of SA includes any non-consensual S act or any act where the victim cannot consent. The definition is adhered by the department when applying our policies and guidance. By the VA's no tolerance policy towards domestic S harassment, and A, as outlined in VA Handbook 5979 and VHA Directive, the VA is committed to limiting these behaviors in our community. Employees have expressed discomfort with the display of this photograph, suggesting that its presence could be construed as tacit, I've never seen this, endorsement, or the inappropriate behavior it depicts. I've not read this handbook from the Veteran Affairs, but the fact they're citing this as far as actions are going forward, These two people are not part of the veteran affairs that are in this photo. The people that took the photo were not under the veteran affairs department during this. So like the fact that it's depicted there, awesome. I understand that it doesn't go in line with what you believe in. But I believe that we could look at anything in life and sit here and say, the pencil I carry in my hand is eliminating the trees that would be able to deliver oxygen for another baby in this world. And I'm like, yes, that could be the case. And there could be a migrant worker that's being underpaid. And there could be all these injustices. Like, there's just a point where I feel like there are too many injustices that we cannot capture all of them or have a consideration for every person that could be treated in an unjust manner. They say to foster a more trauma-informed environment that promotes the psychological safety of our employees and the veterans we serve, photographs depicting the VJ Day in Times Square should be removed from all VHA facilities. This action reflects our dedication to creating a respectful and safe workplace and is in keeping with our broader efforts to promote a culture of inclusivity and awareness. 5. In celebrating the end of the World War II and the valiant service of our veterans, facilities should seek alternative photographs that capture the spirit of victory and peace without compromising the VA's commitment to a safe and respectful environment. And 6, your cooperation in this matter is vital. Please ensure that these photographs are promptly removed and facilities explore suitable replacements that honor our history and veterans in a manner consistent with our values. And 7, should have any questions concerning this memorandum, please contact Lila Jackson, Director of the Assault and Harassment Prevention Office at, it doesn't mention here. And this was signed by Rima Ann O. Nelson, which is the assistant under the Secretary for Health for Operations. Now, this has led to the director of the Veteran Affairs Department, which is the Secretary of Defense. He has been dragged through the mud as people have asked him, if you are endorsing this memorandum, does that mean that you are inherently saying you agree with it or whatever else? But this is where the VA, the Veteran Affairs, has actually backpedaled on this matter, and they're saying that this is not the case. Secretary Dennis McDonough of Veteran Affairs says, let me be clear, this image is not banned from VA facilities and we will keep it in VA facilities. And there are tons of reactions to this. And because of this, it looks like many people on the internet are actually asking for the counter of this issue of having the person that signed this memorandum to actually be fired. Look at this. Rich Zioli says, so the memo's fake or are you just overriding the decree? Julia says, so did you approve Rima Ann Nelson's memo or will she be fired? And that has a lot of likes on it. And James Hutton says, it's most unfortunate that officials at the VA think coming up with memos like this is the best use of their time. Maybe some more concentration on veterans' actual issues is in order. Now, as many of you guys know, this photo has been controversial as people are like, it was not consensual, which, you know, consent is important. I'm not going to say it isn't. However, what I will say as well is that the context matters because these two individuals in this photo have actually had a book written about this exact moment, this day, what happened. There were interviews of them together and things like that, and it seemed like they had no hard feelings or issues back in 2012 from everything that I've seen from this. And I do want to say that that is important. What do these people think about that? And what do their families think about it if they're not alive or whatever else is going on, if they are still totally cognizant to talk about these types of issues?
So they stopped the show and they said, we're putting the lights on, we stopped the show, the war's over.
Now 90 years young, he remembers it vividly. He said it was wild in the streets, everyone celebrating, and he had remembered months earlier in the Pacific before he came home, nurses on board a hospital ship helping wounded sailors.
But I honestly believe if that girl did not have a nurse's uniform on, that I wouldn't have done that kiss.
A kiss that's now symbolic of the end of World War II and that was the subject of debate for years over who the soldier was. North Kingstown author Lawrence Verrier wrote the book, The Kissing Sailor.
And that's because people like Veteran with a Sign had to come out and even say this.
If we're going to remove a photo like this from VA medical facilities, we should have input from the family members of these people or themselves. Also, if you're an operations official, I want your attention to be on things like the VA backlog, the suicide epidemic, Agent Orange burn pits. Those are things you should focus on. Fix those and then we can talk about stuff like this.
And people responded to him and said, if the woman in the photo spoke out and she said she was A-worded or something, then of course take it down. But that doesn't seem to be the case based on her interviewing with the man and writing a book together. And Christmas Bell says here, obviously, if she were upset by it, this would be a different story, but this isn't the case. It's not what we need to focus on. Backlogs, people not being able to see doctors when needed, horrible wait times, people not being believed about so many issues. When these massive issues are fixed, we can go back and talk about things in the past. And this is where I wanted to really get a grasp on what the true issues are with backlogs, medical access to care, because really that has been a massive issue of people even getting access to care. On top of that, that's led to many service members in healthcare facilities, parking lots, taking their lives as a symbolic token of their last final moments of their lives, unfortunately. But as of today, these are the reports that they're showing for the VA. On the VA's website itself, for detailed claims data, they're saying for claims inventory, they are pending 996,774 claims as of March 2nd. And they say the claims backlog are at 368,574 claims. They're saying the 3-month issue level accuracy is at 91.58%. They're saying the 12-month issue level accuracy is at 94.53%. They're saying the 3-month claim-based accuracy is only at 82.33%, and the 12-month claim-based accuracy is at 86%. So they are almost a million behind in claims. They aren't looking to slow down anytime soon. They don't have enough people to process all these claims. On top of that, you're seeing the accuracy of people appealing and amending these types of claims and trying to get them better to what they should have been is still not 100%, which should be the aim, obviously, because if you're doing the work more than once, you're reworking the issue and causing more backlogs or delays in that type of issue as well. I am greatly surprised by this because I would have sworn this would happen several years ago, as far as this being a case or an issue, as all the statues and things are being removed, as people are looking at doing that, taking Aunt Jemima off that and becoming the Millington Company or whatever it's called now. I would have thought this story would have been unleashed only a couple years ago, and I'm surprised. Why now? What caused this? Were there issues that people actually brought up? I would love to see if that was the case. Could they actually show those complaints so they were factual? Were they anonymous? Did somebody write an email? Did something happen to cue this? Or were these made up jobs that somebody said, that thing is offensive? You actually know the real story behind that? And then kind of projecting that, I don't know, highest, elite, noble nature of your understanding of history on other people, when really a lot of people don't even associate it with that. So, but I believe that I'm only one opinion. Your opinions are down in the comments below, and do continue that conversation as it always should continue. But as always, if you guys like what I cover here on the channel, hit me up over on Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, TikTok, or down in the comments below. I love you guys. I'll see you next time.